if I would look at their identity different if it's a close game with the Bucks. I actually won't. What I'll more so look at them as is maybe they're not as good as I think they are. And what I mean by
Mm,
that is, so if they come out and they're running the ball, they're effectively running the ball, they're playing great defense, um, but they're giving up points. I might look at them like maybe the Jags just weren't that good, and maybe the Jags maybe had a bad day. Maybe the Jags woke up and ate the wrong cereal and had a bad day, and maybe we're not as good as I think we are. That's what I mean by I'll look at them a little differently because I have to ask that question if it's that close of a game. But when I turn on the film and I'm watching the Bucks aren't good. So it's like the Bucks are not a good team. They're a gritty team. They try to make it a fight. But I won't look at the Niners differently in the sense of their identity if they're doing what they're supposed to do in terms of defense is playing great, offense is running the ball, but Tampa is just making great plays and they're having themselves a good game. I won't look at their identity different. I'll more so look at the 49ers and be like, are we as good as I think we are? Are we really a contender? Like that's kind of what I mean by I'll look at us differently when I said if it's a closer game to Tampa. I'll look at us in the sense of maybe there's things that I'm missing, and maybe the tackling issue is a reason why we're not as good. Or X maybe this is a
yeah.
reason why we're not as good as we are. Maybe when we do play the best
How they
teams, we're
lose
gonna struggle.
how they lose will be interesting too, because I think aside from Nick Bosa really showing out last game, stopping the run has been a giant problem for this team this year. Um, and that's something that they were able to fix yes or on I keep saying yesterday, on Sunday. So it'll be interesting, like, is this problem over, or was that, kind of good luck against Jacksonville? I hate to be like hindsight police, but I do think potentially people gave Jacksonville a little bit too much credit going into that game. They're obviously so much more successful than they were, 2 years ago. I think if I was a Jacksonville fan, I'd be very proud and happy of the success that my team is having. But I don't think when we're trying to assess 49ers being Super Bowl contenders, I
Mhm.
don't think that the standard is Jacksonville. Um,
Yeah, I agree in this, but I do think Jacksonville. I think that was a big win. That was a statement win in the sense of I think Jacksonville is a top 10, around the 7, 8 range of the teams in the NFL. I think they're that good of a
okay,
team.
I like that.
But I just think when you see a team get whooped on that, like for example,
Yeah,
Dallas, when we whooped on Dallas,
yeah,
does that make Dallas a terrible team? Nah, I think Dallas just had a bad day. Like looking at
yeah.
them, I think they just had a bad. If we were to go back and play that game again, I don't think we're blowing them out by that many. Like we're not going to do that again to them. It's going to be a closer game. It's going to be a hard fought game because these teams are really good. The Niners just whooped on them that given Sunday. So that's kind of what I look at. It's like I kind of take into consideration as to when I'm watching the game back because the Jags are a good team. Watching them on film, they're a good team. So I don't, and I think we're that good of a team. But that's what I'm saying. Like we're that good of a team where we could whoop on the team. I think we're in the top four. So when you're playing the eighth, ninth, 10th best teams in the league, you should whoop on them because you're that good of a team. So that's where I'm kind of looking at the Niners right now. And if they
I would
struggle,
also I'd never wish injury on this, so this isn't a good thing, but I think you and I have talked about this before, kind of like, is this the year for the Niners? Not only when you look at the age of their players and the play of the NFL around,
Mhm.
but another team kind of just got, with Joe Burrow being out for the season, that's just one less team that the 49ers have to worry about. Right now, it seems like, in my opinion, when I think of like the boogeyman for um, the 49ers, I'm thinking about Philly and I'm thinking about the Chiefs. Because the Chiefs
Ooh,
are one
I'm
team.
thinking Baltimore.
Baltimore? Yeah, that's true. That'll be a
I'm
hard
thinking
one for them.
Baltimore.
That'll be a
I'm
hard one
thinking
for them.
we,
That'll
we
be a hard one
struggle
for them.
we struggle against mobile quarterbacks. They can run the ball effectively.
They did
Um,
just lose Mark Andrews,
yeah, they did, but Isaiah
right?
Likely will step up. He's a good tight end.
Okay.
Not going to be as good as Mark Andrews, obviously, but I think he could be a fill-in guy. Their
Yeah.
defense is phenomenal. And they were missing Marlon Humphreys yesterday, and they held Jamar Chase to one catch, 10 yards. Like that's how
Yeah,
good
I
of a
don't
team
know
they
what's
are.
it's like a flaw that I have. Because I'm not necessarily I think like the regular season game against Baltimore will be really difficult, and I could totally see the Niners. I think before the season, when I looked at that, I checked that as a loss, just knowing this was before I even knew how that the 49ers were going to be inconsistent. I was just like 49ers against their defense against a mobile quarterback like Lamar Jackson, that's going to be hell for them. What I more meant is when they go to the playoffs and if they did get to the Super Bowl, who do I think would really be preventing them? I think right now, if like the playoffs were just to start right now, that the 49ers would go against the Cowboys. Do you believe in that? And maybe they kind of proved this wrong last year because they beat the Seahawks 3 times in a row. Do you believe, because we were just kind of talking about that game, that that would be a challenging opponent in the playoffs for the 49ers? Or would you prefer, like, if they had to go against like the Lions or the Cowboys, which team would you prefer that the 49ers face?
I would rather play the Lions.
Okay.
And the reason
Just
is
because Jared Goff or
yeah, Jared Goff's over there. I know we could get to him. I know we could get in his head. So I'm looking at that. I think Dak Prescott is on a run. After since the Niners game, he's been on a run. Um, I think that team is
he's like,
good.
I'm tired of answering these questions.
He's
Poor
really
guy.
good. People, Niners like to hate. Niner fans like to hate on Dak because he's a Cowboy. But if Dak Prescott was a Niner, we'd
They
be
would have had a Super Bowl by now.
we'd be no, not necessarily Super Bowl, but the Niner fans would be calling him a top 3 quarterback right now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
so,
Because
like
he has
that's
like Brock Purdy's skill set, but more maybe. I mean, I don't know about to sit like I don't know if we can say that because we haven't seen a large enough sample size of Brock Purdy compared. Maybe not a fair comparison, but I think when you think about how 49er fans talk about Brock Purdy, I don't think that Dax, at least talent wise, is lesser than Brock Purdy.
I
I
mean,
don't know if that's
looking at
slanderous to
Brock,
say. I feel like maybe there's people in the comments that are like, "What?" Because I know people hate on Dak, but just like
I don't
arm
think
strength wise and mobility wise, like he is a good quarterback.
much better quarterback than Brock Purdy. I'll say I know what you're trying to say. He has much better talent than Brock Purdy. He has a stronger arm. He's
Yeah,
just as
you're like
mobile.
less
Like
afraid. You're less
I know
afraid of it. Yeah.
you're trying to like tiptoe the line. He's a stronger arm quarterback. He has the arm. He has the size, the mobility. You probably just as smart of a quarterback in terms of processing ability. Like it is what it is, and it's I'm telling you, it's because he's a Cowboys fan that a lot of fans will say he is not good. If he was playing for any other team, we would be saying he's a good quarterback. He's thrown 17 touchdowns to 6 interceptions this year. He's pushing the ball downfield. Um, he's completing 70% of his passes, which is higher than Brock. He has
And he has
105
way less weapons, a way but like not as he doesn't have Kyle Shanahan, like all these.
So I'm saying like
I'm not saying I think
I
Purdy's
love that.
Purdy's
I
great.
love Dak Prescott.
Oh look, the fans got so mad they muted you. They were like,
Absolutely,
"Stop
like,
with the Dak love! Stop with the Dak love!"
I think he's a hell of a quarterback. I just hate that he's a Cowboy. Like literally, like
Yeah,
that's the only downfall on him. He's a Cowboy. Um,
yeah,
but I think I would not rather I would rather play the uh, Lions unproven, the Debo CJ Garner beef. I know who's
yeah. That
coming
would
out.
be
I
fun.
know who's coming out on top of that game.
That
Like
would be
I
fun.
would guarantee a Niner win if we play the
Isn't CJ
Lions.
Gardner like on IR? Why is he? I don't even know if he's playing right now.
I don't know if he's playing right now either, but I just know I know how the Niners are going to react if they play the Lions. Like it's become like it's personal. Like for Debo and the Niners have Debo's back, so that's the thing that I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
guarantee
They like
a
rally
win.
around. They
Like
rally
they
around him for
really,
sure.
the thing is, the Niners like to be low key. They low key like to be instigators, and they like to back it up. Now, that's like their style. Like they like to play the underdog mentality, but the reality is they
Yeah.
like to instigate a lot of things. For example, Tampa obviously started practice a little bit earlier because they're in the East Coast. They're blasting Tony Montana. The Niners start practice. What are they blasting? Tony Montana. Like you don't tell me, sit here and tell me that our DJ decided, you know what, I'm playing Tony Montana today. They saw that the media saw that they were blasting Tony Montana out there. That's been a well-known 49ers song in terms of our days with Jim Harbaugh and that unit in the hit squad. Um, so they saw it as a personal jab. Like it is what it is.
I kind
They
of love how sports. I feel like that's such a big thing in sports. I did college athletics, and even we did that. Like you kind of have to find little ways to like get an edge, and
if
I
you're
like that because we're talking about we don't want the 49ers to play down to their competition. We don't want them to overlook Tampa. So if in their minds they're like, hey, this isn't that good of a team, they have to come up with these little jabs in order to get them, hype. If it works, then it works. If it doesn't, then I'm like, okay, come on. Like, you should, I understand. I feel like so many people have the opinion, like, you're a professional, you should just be able to kind of turn it on. But I always, when people say that, I always think, how do you do when you're performing your own work? If you have a goal, if there's some sort of, if we talk about Chase Young, if you have a friend, or if
Mhm,
you have, I'm gonna meet this quota, I'm gonna get a bonus. Or I was a teacher in middle school, and I was like, okay, like if this many of my students perform well, that's like really gratifying to me, and it does make you kind of having those benchmarks. That's why benchmarks exist, right? It
mhm.
keeps your head in the game, for lack of a better word. So I like that the 49ers are doing that. I didn't see the Tony Montana thing, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, you gotta be a little as an athlete, you gotta be a little cuckoo, and what I mean by that, you gotta find things that make you believe that the other person's talking shit, like, it makes you play harder, it makes it like you're trying to prove something, like, hey, for example,
Did
if
you
someone
see
wa
they Bosa said that him and Baker like squashed the beef. Do you believe that?
I believe it because it's different,
So annoying.
it's different. It's different when you meet someone and you realize, like, they're actually a cool dude,
Yeah.
like, it's different, like, right? Like, they chopped it up, they were at a I believe it was at a camp, talked a little bit, and they realized, like, "You know what? We're very alike. We're very humble dudes, we're very chill dudes. I planted the flag on the Buckeye because we played you guys and you guys kept whooping our ass a couple of years before or whatever. We haven't been able to beat you guys. We finally beat you guys. That was a big win. To me, it was
Yeah.
more so you guys were talking talk during the game. I finished the talk. I got the last laugh kind of thing. So it's gonna be fun. The Niners are they're gonna be playing again, like you said earlier, against um defenses, defensive linebackers, Levante David, and the other, how I cannot think of his name, but two very good linebackers who was also drafted in the first round. Um, it's all about how do they play, in my opinion, um, because their roster is led by those two dudes, um, Levante David, and I'm gonna get his name on the
Devin
top of my
White.
head right.
Devin
Yeah,
White or
Devin
Sharp.
White, Devin
Yeah, yeah.
White. Um, so when I'm looking at it is for me, it's all about the opportunity to not turn the ball over to those linebackers because those linebackers they're gonna punch the ball out. They're gonna do what they can. If the Niners win the turnover battle,